Mate, you all right?
Gary, good morning. How are you? I've actually been kicked out of me workspace like 3 times in this house because we keep having kids. So first room turned into the bonus room, turned into the office. That I got kicked out of that. My daughter ended up there. I'm like now down the hall. So
How many kids you got now, Rich?
I've got two kids.
Man, you need to buy a telly. Just buy a telly. It'll solve your problems. You got too much time on your hands having kids and that.
Yeah.
Oh, how's the interviews been
The
going?
setup, by the way. Like,
Oh, mate, everyone says it's like I don't know how much you can see, but it's just accumulating crap. Like I do that Prostate United thing every year you send you stuff. So then I got a scarf, and then I got a hat, and then I got a few other bits, and then there's other bits and bobs flying around and badges, and it's all right though, and it adds to the flavour, I suppose. Welcome to the Cross on the Pond podcast, hosted by me, Gary Adair, where we talk to people from all walks of life, artists, educators, entrepreneurs and adventurers, to explore the stories and lessons that can help you understand yourself, others, and create meaningful change in your own life. Today's guest is Richard Scott, a coach whose journey started in the framework of his hometown club, Newcastle United, before taking him across the Atlantic to the US with a short stint in Iceland for good measure, quickly moving into various roles within MLS academies, experiencing the game through a completely different lens. Recently, Richie's made a bold pivot, stepping away from the pitch and into the creative world of product design. From football to creativity, we talk about his why, what has carried over, and what he's had to leave behind.
We talked a little bit on the phone, but what is your background? Because you're with UK in what years, and then what do you do? Like, where are you now?
Oh, this will take a while. Have you got a pen? So I moved in 2003, came over as summer staff, and then I had to go home straight away because I failed one of my exams in college, my psychology exam. And then while I was at home, I was just about to move to Spain to teach in an English night school, if you can believe that. And then I got offered the job to come back in the fall because someone went home. So from then, I just ended up staying. Like the year after I got an H2, stayed for 9 months, and then I never went back after that because I got offered an H1. It used to look a lot different, mate. Like it was a shame really because and I'm not trying to sound like arrogant, but the better coaches or the more successful coaches just got stuck in the office because they didn't know what to do with us. So we were all in the office, and it just got to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. So then I kind of went out on my own, toiled around for a little bit, worked in high school jobs, worked in college jobs, and then I got offered a teaching job like 2015. And I took it because I needed it. Like similar to what you've said then, like it's one thing to really want to do something and be passionate about it, but it gets to the point where you need a little bit of stability just in case. And as soon as I realised that, and as soon as I realised that football had to be a secondary income to me, because it just wasn't there for me, whether you call it timing, call it luck, call it not good enough, call it just not fancied or whatever it was. So at the moment, it's podcast, scouting, teaching, and then I've just started a course for educational leadership. But I'm just a professional plate spinner, Rich. It's basically what I am.
I'm wondering where I'm looking in the background for all the hats that you've got because you're wearing so many.
Honestly, mate, it's mad. Like you, I mean, I'm sure and we'll get to this as well. I'm sure you're seeing it now with your job. When you're into something and you enjoy it, you do end up throwing yourself at it. And, there's obviously a time when you need to balance that out. And I'm still trying to do that as best I can. But yeah, just keep going. Something's going to land sooner or later, mate. And then I can actually just hone in on one thing.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Because at the time when you're like making these decisions, it's like hard to think of like a life outside of football, right? Because you've done it for so long.
Yeah.
But you can learn and realize that there's other passions that you can have in your life that you don't even know about yet.
And I know we're going to talk about it anyway, and we'll get going in a sec, but I just can't stop moving. And I think the second you stop moving and the second you get complacent is the second someone's going to overtake you. As long as I'm interested in something and I feel like I'm getting buy-in from people around me, that I'm actually doing a decent job, I'm like, right, I'll do it. I'm motivated to do it. But yeah, it's a lot. So when you started coaching at Newcastle?
Yeah.
In college?
So I was in college at Gateshead College. It's a pretty good school for like sports, and I did sport and exercise science there.
Mm-hmm.
they had like once you finish that course, there's like another course that started just basically keep people in the program, which was like doing your level 2 football coaching, but then you do a work placement. So I can't remember like all the different clubs and whatever that they were putting us out of work placements. I think it was like Newcastle City Council, Newcastle United. I think Sunderland might be in there as well. And so I decided that I wanted to go Newcastle United. Not long actually after I went there, that they had like this merger where the City Council and Newcastle United kind of merged together. And that's when all the football clubs in the UK moved from like football in the community to football foundations. So it was like a big change over there during my early period. But yeah, that's how it all started. It was just being in college and they offered a program. And for me, I'm like, yeah, like just get out and coach football for my boyhood club.
I was going to say, being, from that, like, did you think then, were you like 18 or you'd have been about 20, 21 at that point? Were you like, I've made it here? I'm laughing.
Man, how do I answer this? Yes and no. I mean, I remember obviously the prestige of the club in our city. And it's probably the same in most, places in the country. But certainly in Newcastle, like you walk anywhere with your Newcastle tracksuit on, because obviously we're at work and we're bouncing around between schools and stuff like that. And, the warmth and reception that you got from just people out in the public was brilliant. So maybe that gives you a little bit of ego or something as a young person. But at the same time, I'd say probably not. Like I was always very grounded. And I think mostly because just this idea of always thinking about what's next and always trying to push for the next level, maybe to my detriment, didn't allow me to like fully just enjoy each phase that I was in throughout my career. Just always trying to push for the next thing. But yeah, anyway, so like the answer in short is like yes and no, like a little bit of ego, but then also like just this ambition to push further. I don't think I fully enjoyed it.
We kind of talked about that then, didn't we? Just when we came on, like it's like you can't live in the moment because you're constantly looking for the next thing. It's when you look back, you're like, I should have enjoyed that a little bit more. Like, did you feel pressured at all? Because it's new. Because the thing is with Newcastle, and I don't like for people over here that might not understand it, places like Newcastle, you're that or you're nothing. Or Liverpool's different because it's Liverpool or Everton. Manchester's different because it's the two clubs. London, you can pick who you want. Birmingham's the same, but Newcastle really is like you say, everywhere's Newcastle, isn't it? Yeah. Do you ever feel pressure about it? Like,
I don't know. Probably not. I think maybe just being young and naive at that time, like just I don't know. It was just coaching. It was just being out and being part of the football club was just so exciting. I will tell you actually that. So when I moved to City, and we would travel across to Manchester for every year with like an age group or whatever, we actually weren't allowed to be out in the city with our coaching gear on because it's a 2-club city, and you can cause conflict with like, and all the staff that live there, like nobody's walking around wearing Manchester United gear or wearing Man City gear. It's like you keep that behind closed doors. Whereas in Newcastle, like it's a 1-club city, so everybody's, even the fans, like everyone just walks around with black and white shirts on everywhere. So, and it's a bit mad actually when you go to the city, you're like, what is this? Do people not have other real clothes? But that's just how it is. It's like everyone just bleeds the club so much that they just love it, But yeah, like there's definitely an expectation when you're there to try and do well for the young players, and obviously you're trying to do well for yourself as well. You're trying to progress up your career path and that ladder. But at the same time, I was so young that maybe you didn't really feel, and obviously the team's performance as well at that time, like weren't really performing particularly well. So I think pressure was maybe not as much part of the equation at that time.
When would that have been? 2007, 2008?
Probably around then, yeah. I think, so I moved here in 2009, so it was probably for about a few years before that I was with Newcastle. So yeah, probably 2006, 2007 is when I started. Through to 2009.
So working inside that environment at an early age, which is I was at Wigan before I came over here, same sort of thing to you. It was football in the community when I was doing it, but same sort of background. You would go around different places, and I worked for Wigan, and it gave me a little bit of a look about how things run on the inside, because obviously when you're on the outside looking, it's different perceptions and all sorts. Did you get an insight and sort of shape? Did it give you any sort of shape of what your career might look like moving forward in football?
From the work that I was doing when I was there, it was football in the community. So you're kind of bouncing around schools a lot and doing school type of programming. But my brother was in the academy at the time when I was coaching. So I was kind of around that a lot anyway. And then towards the back end of my time there was working in the development centers and then kind of shadowing and helping with the academy a little bit. So it started to get like a better look at like what that professional side of the environment looks like. Did it shape me? I'd say probably, I don't know, maybe not, because there's been such a big evolution of the expectation of coaches in the past, 20 years since that was the case. So maybe there's like a natural evolution that I went through with it. But yeah, like nowadays, the expectation of your preparation, your detail, your match plans, your pre-match presentations, and how you plan training, how you periodize, how you manage load of players and return to play protocols, all that sort of thing. It just wasn't really part of the conversation ever. So I think that when I was young and just getting my feet wet, it was just more about football, just being on the grass and just coaching football sessions all the time. Good experience there, but like not really a good look into what the game looks like now. I think that's something that will evolve with as the times have passed.
And then you talked before about keeping an eye on what's next. So in 2009, we'll get to that. You do move over here, move to the US. Was that just the next step for you? Like, what prompted that move? Was there somebody a pathway before, or was it just a case of, well, I'm going to see what's out there? And was it a leap of faith being at Newcastle, where you arguably could have gone through and stayed in the club in one way or the other? Because I always wonder that. I always wonder if I'd have stayed, what would I be doing now in football? So, I mean, and by coming away from that and coming over here, was it a little bit of a leap of faith for you, or was it just another step?
I'd say probably just another step. Like I said, I think that my mentality has always just been like, what's next? But I remember being at college and we just finished training one day, and this guy has come in for the day and he says, if anyone's interested in a scholarship to the US, I'd like have a conversation with me. And I think my eyes just lit up straight away, and I'd always been attracted to the US. And so, yeah, I went through the pathway of like trying to go through a college scholarship. I actually had two that fell through, and it was about a year later, I was coaching at Newcastle. One of my friends just kind of disappeared for the summer. I didn't know where he went. And when he comes back, he said, yeah, I've been in the US coaching. And if you're interested in doing it too, they have some interviews coming up in a couple of weeks. So I literally went online that night, and basically that's when the pathway started, and the rest is history. But yeah, I think that overall it was just like, I was just so attracted to the idea of like coming here and experiencing something new. So didn't really think all that much at the time about, what my pathway might look like at Newcastle. But also, I think in hindsight, looking back, I also realized that there's like almost like a pecking order of like, I was very young. I think not even sure if I'd gone through my UFB at the time, maybe not. So the point being is like, there's other people that are probably better suited for those roles at that time. So maybe my eagerness to get into that environment so early, like it might have taken another 5, 6, 7, 8 years before I was, of that quality to get in. But yeah, the US like obviously just gives you so much experience. Like you're doing hundreds of hours worth of coaching at every different level. So I think it was like actually a really good step for me developmentally. But yeah.
Well, just culturally then, when you first get here, what's it like for you? Because had you ever been here before? Because obviously you've had conversations with colleges about possibly coming over. Had you been to the US before you got here?
Never been. Yeah.
What was it like?
Just jumped right in. I remember the first day I got up, walked outside. It was bright blue sky, but like crisp and cold. And we went to, have first day of orientation. And I just remember being super excited about it. It didn't have any feeling at all of like nervousness or anything like that. I was just, again, I keep saying like this naivety as a young person, but just didn't care. I was like, all right, I'm here. Like, we'll just give it a go and see what happens. But yeah, it's like, I mean, what a decision.
Yeah. How's the Geordie accent transfer to Americans early on? Because you must have been a lot broader then when you came over.
Yeah, I think really early. It didn't take me long at all before I was starting to tweak things, but it probably, as you've done as well, But yeah, it's funny because I'll go back home and see my family, and within minutes, everyone's like you just sound like you've been here for like the last 20 years, But and then I come back to the US and everything is softened, and you just, I don't know, I guess it's the different environment that you're in. You just kind of adapt to it real quick.
I find it's the words, like the accent pretty much stays the same, but it's the words that you use. I get caught out all the time at home with words like, can I get this? I say that all the time, and I find like an absolute weapon when I say it. But say it in the accent that I've got, so it sounds even weirder. Don't say it like an American.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you as far as socially, you came over on your own? I mean, I know you come over with a group of people, but you came over on your own. Did you settle in pretty easy in social circles? Like, were the people that sort of you latched onto each other early to help yourselves out through, getting used to being away from home and whatnot?
Yeah. Obviously, when you come over here, you with the environment that I was in a house with 5 other lads, and I think literally all day long, all you talk about is football. You're just immersed in it, talking training designs, then you go out and you run your trainings, and you come back and you talk about it, and the next day you just get up and rinse and repeat. You just do the same thing over and over. And I think naturally from being around people that have made the exact same step as you, I think it helps. But yeah, for me, I think I was 20. I was 20 when I came here. So I think I was the youngest in the house, and all the other lads were a little bit older than me. But yeah, like, I mean, for sure, like everyone helps each other to settle in and whatever. But I just don't think that I ever had the feeling of like, people say, oh, I get homesick, I want to go home. I just don't think I ever had that. And fast forward, so after the first year, I then had a couple more years of like, came back here on a couple of H2B visas, but also lived in Iceland as well, and just bounced back and forth between the few countries for a few years.
How does that come about?
That came back through Newcastle. So I went back after my first H2B visa here, went back to Newcastle United, was trying to push for academy football. Again, pecking order wasn't quite best suited for it. So they said, we have this club that we have a affiliation with in Iceland. Would you be interested in going? So I went there for 6 months, came back to the US for 9 months, went back to Iceland for another year again. And that's where like bouncing back and forth happened. But that environment was completely different because not only was I alone, like completely alone, didn't live in a house with other people, I also didn't speak the language. It took me a long time to learn. So very isolating, and you learn a lot about yourself in that type of environment. So looking back at it, it's like the first year of coming here and making the leap of faith at 20 years old, whatever, like it almost feels like nothing because you're around 5, 6 other guys in the same house, but then also hundreds of other guys and girls that are walking the same path and working for the same company as you. So it actually, looking at it that way, looks really easy to make that decision. Iceland was like,
that's the thing I think, and I think a lot of people, I'm not saying it's easier moving away, but it's easier moving away in those circumstances, isn't it? And even if you move on your own over here, at least you speak the language and you can get by. But Iceland, I mean, me and my missus went to Iceland a couple of years ago, and it's a lovely place, but we went in the summer, so it never goes dark for a start. And like, because it's a very, it's like a Scandinavian language, isn't it? So it's very difficult to get to grips with. Like, how do you manage that when you first get there? Obviously there's a liaise with Newcastle, so there's probably a little bit of easy.
Yeah, I think that first of all, as most people in Iceland, they speak English already. Although the little ones, like they didn't speak any. I don't think they start learning it in school till they're about 8 or 9 or something like that. So that was actually a really good environment that I asked to be in. I originally went over there for the older players, working with the second team. I think it was first time around. But I wanted to go and work with the young ones because they couldn't communicate with you. So like it just forced you into a deeper learning curve of figuring out the language. But it's a very harsh language as well. It's like really hard to get to grips with. So that was hard. And then I think when you first arrive, because they want to speak English to you, that's their chance to practice. But then you're in environments where they just start talking Icelandic and you literally cannot understand a thing. So you have to almost wait until they invite you back into the conversation by speaking English to you. And so that's where it can become very isolating. You have to be okay with like being comfortable, being uncomfortable, be in your own head a lot because conversations are just taking place and it's just normal people talking about normal things, but you're not part of the conversation. And so, maybe that was helpful. Maybe I spent more time focusing on training sessions and whatever, but Yeah, very, very different for sure.
How do you cope with that? Say when it is like, listen, it's you're an intelligent fella. You know, it's clear that you know you have a purpose and you're working towards that. But there has to be times where you've had an absolute dog of a day at work, for example, or something like that, and then all of a sudden everyone just breaks into Icelandic, and you're sat in the corner like, right, okay, so nothing's going to help you here. Like, what? How do you manage yourself in those moments? Does it go for a walk? Is it get on the phone to people back home? What is it you do?
Um, I think the reflective process of your work is really important. Probably something that not even thinking about it until like right now. But I probably developed that a lot while I was there, just because of the example that you gave is like not being able to talk to other people about it. I had assistants I worked with in all the age groups. So that was actually, at some point in time, we're going to sit down and have a conversation about like what happened, what should have happened, what adaptations we should have made next time or can make next time, whatever. So yeah, I think that those conversations still took place, but also like, even up to about just over a year ago when I was working in football, I would have times where I drive home from New York City, for example, like it's a 2-hour commute to go each way. So just drive home on my own, no music, no nothing, no phone calls, just quiet. And you can just be alone with your own thoughts. So I probably leaned into that a lot. But then, yeah, look, at some point in town where their conversations die down, like you need to be able to go back and have a proper conversation with the people you're working with to say like, like say what happened, what should have happened, what we do different next time.
I've noticed that, so I've recently moved and it used to be an hour commute for me to get to work in the morning, obviously New York traffic and everything else. But the last couple of months, say the last 6 months, my commute's nowhere near as long. And I miss that time in the car because whether it's, I don't know, you have music on low and you think, but you just have time to decompress, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And it is a learned skill that I don't like, because I know for a fact that if I was in Iceland like you, then I'd have been bouncing off the walls. Like I wouldn't have known what to do. And because obviously didn't have that level of self-control for whatever reason. But I definitely recognize it now as something that, does help me. But sometimes I'll just sit in the car on the drive, give it an extra 10 minutes before I go in, just to be like, because you don't want to go in 100 mile an hour, do you? And you don't want to overthink something or underthink something. Just sounds to me as well. I mean, basically talking to you is just the America thing, Iceland, back home, Iceland, America, little contracts here and there and there. At what point do you finally focus in on going in one direction or one place, let's say? What year did you come back full time?
Came back full time 2013.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know. I think that after the second stint in Iceland and when the opportunity came back to come back here again, I realized it was a place that I enjoyed. But again, I was like still very much open to just the career journey. Like if that led me to stay here and to progress football in this country, great. If not, if it was going to be South America, England, whatever, somewhere else in Europe, like I was at that point in time, I was still
because you're still only 24, 25 at that point.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, still quite young in my 20s.
Definitely, yeah.
It's funny because my mom's fella still tells a story of how the first time I met him, I pulled something out of my wallet, which was a little slip of paper that had different countries written down, and it was all the different countries I wanted to go to check off my list in my professional football journey. Because I thought, right, okay, well, the Premier League is cream of the crop. Behind that, you've probably got Spain, maybe France a little bit behind that with Germany. And so like I had this list of like, okay, if I go here, then I go there, then I go there, then this would be like natural steps to like progress to like the highest level in football. So I think at that time I was still quite open to the idea that like that could be my pathway. Yeah, like look, life happens. And so, yeah, find myself here, married, 2 kids, however many years later, but yeah, wouldn't change a thing.
Do you, like you're talking about reflective practice, which is a big thing and a personal thing. Is there anything part of the Icelandic culture that you still bring with you that still runs through you now? Or maybe not runs through you, but every now and again you'll look back and you go, oh yeah, I do this because of that. It's the clap every now and again.
Yeah, yeah.
That's bad. That was shocking. Sorry.
It's funny because the manager at the time was Hemant Halcomson, was the dentist, everyone calls him. But he was my mate over there. I went there and he was the head coach of the first team. So I was coming in with the second team. Remember the first time I ever met him, I'm in the middle of a training session with the second team and I look over my shoulder and he's about 2 inches behind me, just listening to what I'm saying. I hope I said the right things, you know? Then, yeah, like, I mean, I remember sitting in an armchair watching England play Iceland in the Euros, I think it was. I can't remember what year, but when they beat England, I'm just sat there thinking, I've got my mate in one hand playing against my country. And for the first time ever, I was like, I don't mind who wins, you know. But yeah, I think culturally, I'm not sure. I would have to, honestly, Gary, I'd have to think about that a little bit more. I think there's definitely like a mentality of the Icelandic people is like very hard working, very honest. You know, there's a grittiness that you kind of have to have because of harsh, cold environments. Like, I mean, we lived on an island as well, but between two mountains, was the winds just whistling through like every day, like really, really rough weather conditions. So I think that's kind of shapes you a little bit to like when I'm on the pitch in New York or wherever, and it's like gets a bit rough and gritty like that. I think maybe I quite enjoyed it, possibly because of growing up in the Northeast is quite similar, but then you go
Yeah.
like the same thing, but just a little bit more extreme again. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I've got a really good answer for you on that one.
I'm leaning towards the grit side of it because again, I went in the summer and there's nothing worse than waking up at 3:00 in the morning and it absolutely cracking the flags outside. Like, so that in itself would be a challenge for me. Or at night when it doesn't go, like getting up and going to work when it's pitch black all the time, like even little things like that maybe you wouldn't think about. So you come back, you're at UK Elite for a little bit, you have to change over. You do 5 years at Red Bull, and then the last 4 years before your next little endeavor, you were at New York City FC. What is it like stepping into those academy environments, given what you know already from Newcastle, and then being in Iceland? Now all of a sudden you're in MLS. I don't know if MLS was something you had on your little piece of paper, but what's it like stepping into those environments now? First of all, at Red Bull before you make the move over.
Yeah, so I went to Red Bull, transitioned first into like just a seasonal coach role. Really quickly ended up pushing up the ladder and went into the coach education. So managed all the coaching staff at probably about 170, 180 at a time. And was a really enjoyable job because you're impacting coaches to help them to make better environments for kids. It kind of felt like there's a good mission behind that work. But going back to what I mentioned earlier, just about this ambition to always see like what's next, I was pushing again and again and again for academy work. And the club was actually going through like a very transitional period. So they'd had a time with no academy director, then a new academy director, and then no academy director again, and then another one again. So this was all in 5 years. And I was pushing that whole time of like volunteering time, shadowing, running sessions, and it became more and more as my time went on. But as each new person comes in, they want to probably bring in people that they know, like, and trust, I think is the reality of it. So that happened, and then those opportunities to step into those full-time academy roles just were not opening up. And so the opportunity came at City to step across there. And, if you think about football in terms of like the global, if you want to call them global powerhouses, you'd say Red Bull have a pretty decent multi-club system. And City Football Group is really reputable as well. So the chance to be able to be in both of those environments and see really a lot of these like global best practices and shared ideas across different continents and countries was really enjoyable to be part of. And I think a really good learning environment for me because there is a big difference in terms of the football philosophies and that sort of thing. So I actually felt pretty lucky that I got such a broad spectrum of like viewpoints of the game. Just allows you to almost like settle on your own views, and now I'm out of it, so it doesn't really matter. but
still, I mean, it's definitely contributing to your development, isn't it? I mean, do you think subconsciously, and again, probably not, because at that point, I'm sure family and everything else developed by then or was getting developed. Like, do you subconsciously go to New York and go, all right, well, they've got a club in Melbourne, they've got a club in England, they've got a club there, they've got a club in India, Mumbai, they've got all these other clubs. You think, there's a chance to go to these different countries.
Yeah, maybe.
Subconsciously, maybe.
Honestly, I actually feel very settled here, and I love being here. So the allure of going to those different countries for work purposes, it wasn't really that attractive. But we still got the opportunity through, like, you take academy groups to different countries for different, whether it's tournaments or just like a week of, training and matches in England. We like go stay at City's facility or whatever. So I still got that experience and it was still enjoyable. But yeah, like the idea of like going to one of those different countries to work within City Football Group or Red Bull or whatever, yeah, I think I'm okay without that.
Do you think that's just a sign of getting older? Like, because obviously when you're younger, you want everything, don't you? And you want to do this and you want to do that. Like, do you think obviously, you meet your wife now, and obviously you've got a family as well, but you sort of get to an age where you're like, okay, I'm okay, but I still want these experiences. I still want to look at different opportunities, but I'm happy where I am. I'm enjoying myself here. I feel grounded where I am.
Yeah, I think honestly having kids probably changes it the most. Even when it's just me and my wife, like I enjoyed the travel, I enjoyed seeing all these different places. But at the same time, like, you miss your family. And certainly the further down the road that I got and the evolution of, the MLS schedule for academies, honestly, you're almost on the same schedule as the first team, but you don't have the luxury of a chartered flight, so you still got to go through security and wait at the airport and manage groups of, teenagers and stuff like that. So, you could be flying to Miami for one game and then flying back, or then you go to Texas and it's actually kind of worse than the first team schedule because you go for like a tournament, so you're there for 7 to 10 days and then come back. And so you have multiple events like that throughout the year where you're away for either short or long periods of time. But even just to like fly to Miami for one game or whatever, you see an airport, you see a bus, you see a hotel room, you see a field and an airport, and that's it, So you can say, oh yeah, you went to all these lovely places, Charlotte, you went to Atlanta, you go to Miami, you go to Chicago, whatever. But the reality of it is it's not like that at all. Like, just, you literally just see the bus, the airport, the pitch, and the hotel. That's about it.
Yeah, no, that's it. And to your point a little bit earlier, like you talk about driving 2 hours to and from training because of where where you live now. To put it in perspective, it's basically West Jersey over to Queens and then back every day. And like we had the conversation on the phone, wasn't it? Like you've got to be the first one there and the last one out, because if you're not, you're getting sat in traffic and there's only so much reflective practice you can do if you're sat in traffic. There's not much going on outside the frustration. But was there a moment then? I mean, because again, like it's so funny because I'm on the scouting circuit now and I see you coaching and you top teams with top players who are progressing in their own little national pools as well at their age, and anybody else from the outside looking in. And I said this to you, like I wasn't meant to sound bad, but like, was there a point where you realized that the sustainability of this lifestyle and deciding to switch a career that, again, people would arguably kill for, and I don't mean to sound that in a horrible way to you because you do what's right for you, but you ask any lad who's coaching now, yeah, you know what, you can have the U15s at New York City FC, they'd rip your hand off, wouldn't they? And I kind of understand it because I've been through it there's levels, but I've been through it as well. Like, can you remember the point where you think to yourself, this is getting a bit ridiculous now. Like I need to have a look at other options.
Yeah. Where to start with it?
We got
the
time.
First thing is, I think that I never underestimated and will never underestimate just how much of a privilege it was to coach at those clubs and at that level. And I loved it, and I still love it. But you can love many things in your life, and I love my family, and I love my family more than I love football. That's okay to say. I think that when I would look back and see just how many things that I would miss throughout the year, we'd be traveling always at Easter, for example, and, being around your family and your kids and seeing them with Easter egg hunts and things like that. Okay, you miss that. You miss birthday parties. You miss X, Y, and Z events throughout the year, and beyond that, you just look at the day to day and you kind of miss seeing them growing up and some key milestones and life events that take place. I actually remember one of the lads I was working with at City who just came in He's a new hire for the season. And he'd gone from an environment where he could stay home basically with his kids until like 3 o'clock and then go out and coach in the evening. But like he still had like the whole day with the kids. And then he goes to this environment. He's like, yeah, like I don't see my kids enough. How do you cope? Like, how do you manage it? And it was just on that particular day that I reflected back on it as well. We're having the conversation. I was like, yeah, I think I saw my kids for 10 minutes today. And it's that point in time. And I don't think that was like a key moment to say like, okay, I'm changing now, because it was a feeling that I'd had. And it took me about 2 years to make a final decision to move, because I wanted to be very deliberate about it, very careful with the decision, make sure it wasn't something I was just feeling in a moment for any particular reason. And then also to think very carefully about, if I was going to make a move, then what would I want to do? And whatever I was going to do, I wanted to make sure it was something I was going to be good at. So design is something that, it's funny because we talk about transferable skills. It just followed me like my whole life. And you think about, as a coach, it's probably one of the things you do the most is you design practice environments to take people from current behavior to desired behavior. So it's where are you now, where are you going, how do you get there is the piece in the middle. That's what you design for. And it's actually fun because in football, you get to have that feedback almost instantly because you plan it and then you just deliver it and then you get back immediately. In design, it's a little bit different. You have to wait for a product to get launched, and then you get the feedback of like, okay, is it working? No, I need to change a few things. But yeah, it's like super transferable. But the design piece was always like the piece that I just really enjoyed about football. And I thought it was like a good segue, a good natural career change that I could take.
Was it a slow burner? Something that was playing on your mind? And then all of a sudden just having that conversation with the one coach, you're just like, oh, right, okay, the penny dropped. Or was that kind of like the push that you needed to go, you know what? I'm not the only one that thinks this is bonkers. You're dead right? Listen, everyone has jobs and everyone works hard, and there's moments that you miss stuff. And I think that's kind of the trade-off of being over here as well. Like you learn quickly that you're going to miss things. Like I've missed every one of my brother's weddings, for example, and kids being born and whatnot. But like, do you think that just that 2 hours a day in the car is massive in it? Because I'm sure your kids, by the time you got home at night, your kids are long gone to bed. And then by the time you get up and gone in the morning, they've probably not even got up, or they're just surfacing. Maybe you can give them the breakfast before they leave. Like it's those little moments, isn't it? Because I'm sure you turned around at one point and went, like your kids all of a sudden is much more developed, doing things that maybe you haven't seen for the first time.
Yeah. So to the first part of your question, like it was definitely a slow burner. But then when I was like ready to make the decision, to your last point there, I wanted to make the decision when I did because I didn't want to procrastinate any longer. And then to look back and say, you know, another 5 years has passed and I've kind of missed seeing my kids being little. Because you only get that for a really short period of time, you know. We had friends over last week and they brought their kid, and he's only a couple of years younger than my son. My son is 6. He's still got the little baby voice and everything. You're like, oh, he's like this cute little kid. And then my son comes in and he's like, bro, first of all, I'm your dad, so don't, let's not go there. But second thing is, I'm like, come to this realization that he's developing, you know, and he's a little boy now, you know, and I'll still enjoy that for a period of time, but he's no longer this like baby toddler, like, you know, and so to the point is like making the decision when I did, like, has been a life changer for me. Like I get to take them and pick them up from school probably most days of the week. Was able to take him to his first day of kindergarten. You know, you just see like all of the, and my daughter as well. So she's a train wreck. She's absolutely mad.
They always are, the second one.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't even know how my wife would have survived with the second one, you know, if she was on her own with her all the time. But yeah, like just being able to be there, be present with them has been like a big blessing in my life, and something that I just didn't have before. And then until you experience it, you go, like, okay, like I don't think I could see myself in my life going back to that previous lifestyle again.
Yeah, back to what you were at. Yeah. Did you ever, because I've toyed with this a number of times, and I'm almost positive everyone else does. For someone who was so wrapped up for 20 years in football, did you ever worry about your identity? like the loss of identity. Were you bothered about that, or was that something that ever crept into your mind? And it definitely has with me as well with football. Like I'm no longer a coach anymore. Like as far as like people around me see it, they just say some idiot who's the teacher and does podcasts. That's it.
Yeah. I think that I've had conversations with people where, you used to get introduced to people and they would say, oh, this is Richie. He works at New York City in the professional MLS or whatever. And you kind of get introduced that way. And so it does become part of your identity. In Jurgen Klopp kind of style, when I stepped away from it, I was like, no, I'm just a normal guy. And honestly, like quite enjoyed being that normal guy. Yeah, you can put your superhero cape on when you go into coach mode and whatever, but being in dad mode for me is like I'm happy with that in my life. So the identity loss, I don't think I think of it that way. I do think of it as being like an evolution of my life and the direction of it. And, I've found ways like this podcast, for example, like the football just keeps creeping back into my life. And there's even ideas, like design ideas. I'll just like drop something online where I've like vibe coded like like a football analytics app or like a coaching platform or something. So it's still present in my life, but yeah, I don't really feel like it's an identity, like a loss of identity or anything like that.
Am I right in this? Let me butcher this one, mate. It's UX product and design or product design.
Yeah. So the label of the role is kind of evolving a little bit at the minute. About a year or two ago, it was UX UI. So it's user experience is UX and user interface is the UI. So now they call it product design, but basically what you're doing is designing websites and you're designing apps, like mobile apps as well. So yeah, like I say, the labels will change a little bit every couple of years, but essentially UX, UI or product design, it's all just about designing for those web-based platforms.
And that's what when you envisioned this move, that's what you envisioned to go into.
Yeah. Really like it.
And no prior background.
I'd say no prior.
I mean, I'm not trying to expose you.
Yeah, no prior background other than just designing and iterating, reflecting, and just making training sessions better every day, like the design. But then once I left football, I went into design school for a few months. And then once I stepped out of that, it was a good learning experience for me because I was much better prepared for going into like freelance work. Design is like a proper career.
It's one thing to have the drive, but then you get the knowledge to match the drive, and you've got all that prior experience with what you do, whether it's session planning or whether it's analytics or whatever it is. Do you see a lot of crossover between the roles, having done football for 20 years?
Yeah, I think the last couple of years of me being in coaching, I became like really objective driven, tried to like remove subjectivity as much as possible, trying to be evidence-based, data-driven. And I think that part is really helping in design, because if someone's going to invest a lot of money into, you designing something for them, then you want it to work. So I think that going back to that mentality in football and that systematic way of working, you want to make sure that it's rooted in evidence. Like you've got some data, some stuff that backs up your design decisions, so that it doesn't fall flat on its face. But yeah, there's other things, like I said, the plan, do, review, like the constant designing. Where are you now? Where are you going? How do you get there? And the iterations of like, okay, this isn't working. We need to like look at different options of what you might do here next time. A lot of that, and I think the reflective stuff from football really gets pulled into it a lot. The other thing I'd say as well is like the leading multidisciplinary teams. So like in New York City, for example, we used to have daily meetings with medical staff, performance staff, analysts, coaching staff to get aligned on what are we doing and what's the intended outcomes of the day. And in design, you kind of work with developers, engineers, a lot, project managers. So that empathy to be able to like, I always say seek to understand before seeking to be understood, is like you want to get all the context from everybody first to help inform your decision making. So it's, it's less about like what I think and I feel, but it's like can we just get the ideas of everybody on the table first? And then that should inform you of what some potential constraints might be and then how you progress and move forward. And that definitely drags, like we pull that in directly from football. Because you don't need to be a subject matter expert in any of these things, but you just need to know enough and to empathize with like their perspective to be able to make better decisions in your current role.
I love that. I'm stealing that, by the way. Seek to understand before seeking to be understood. Stolen. I'm having that. Your coaching career and background, that must have given you a leg up in situations like this. Just, again, overseeing, reviewing, managing groups of people. I mean, and I know you're relatively new to it, but it must give you a bit of an advantage where people think, all right, this guy's understands the group theory of everything.
Yeah, I really do think that there's a lot of strong reasons why my background like is really useful. I'm sure people with other backgrounds as well have got some unique personality traits or like experiences that they can pull in that is also useful. But I think from a coaching background, yeah. And it's funny because like the longer that I go down this pathway of design, the more I'm like, oh yeah, like we used to use that in football and that's relevant now. Like yesterday I just talked about when I was at Red Bull, they used to use a lot of military terms for making things like systematic in the way that we worked. So I was literally just talking to somebody yesterday about the OODA loop, is observe, orientate, decide, act. Just a really good way of like thinking about, you know, what is happening, what options do you have to be able to change what's happening. And you do that as a coach every day, whether you think of it as an OODA loop or not. But like you're in a match and you're like, okay, well, we're trying to overload the midfield by pulling in a winger and making a box and whatever. Okay, so that's you observing, orientating yourself to the environment, but it's not working. So, okay, let's do it with a different player. So instead of the winger, we'll try with the fullback and then we see if it impacts the game any differently. So that's where you do it in football. But then in design, it's the same thing. It's like when you enter a project, you could be entering at the beginning, the middle, or somewhere towards the end. But again, being able to like orientate yourself to the environment, like where are we now? And then where are we going? How do we, and I know it keeps coming up. It's just more experiences that are just coming from football. I think in particular, like Red Bull was a really, really good experience for me from a business standpoint, like learning how to work in a very systematic and organized way. And then I just managed to take that and try and take it further when I was at City. But really, I think the foundation of that came from the time at Red Bull.
At Red Bull, yeah. With all this information, though, that you've got and the way that you talk about it is very in-depth and it's very reflective. And I know you're early in this thing and you're in these meetings. Do you ever get imposter syndrome, or do you ever feel a sense of imposter syndrome because you're in a new space?
Yeah, every day. But you know, it's funny because people in design, they talk about that all the time. Is like when you're stepping into your first design roles, like this feeling of imposter syndrome. But I think that something for me is that I've always been very comfortable with just knowing what I know and knowing what I don't know. And I really don't mind telling you if I don't know. Like I just don't know. Maybe I can find the answer out and give me some time to go research it and look it up. Or maybe there's just a better person to answer this in the room. And I think you have to be okay with doing that. And again, kind of comes back to the whole seek to understand piece. Is like, if you're in a room with intelligent people, sometimes, you know, listen twice as much as you speak, I think is another relevant like quote, if we want to call it that. But yeah.
Someone told me that. If you're in a room with smart people, just keep your mouth shut and just listen, because you're going to learn so much more and you'll get so much more respect as well, because you're not talking absolute noodles to somebody. Has that been the most humbling part of changing into a new industry? Like just being understanding that there are people here that know a ton more than me, and I am just here to be a sponge for the next couple of years or the next couple of months until I can really develop myself.
Yeah, I think so. Of course, there's a part of you that's the ambitious side that wants to kind of see how can we used to call it the Nike tick. So it's like the where are you now, where are you going? But there's I think it's called Tuckman's model of team performance. It's, what do they call it again? I'll have to come back to it. You'll have to look it up. But it's basically about like team formation, and there's forming, storming, norming, and performing, right? So when you enter a new environment, it's the forming, and storming is when you actually go into like this, your performance can actually go down. And it's where there's like a lot of conflict, there's a lot of messiness, and you're trying to figure out like, what is the norm that we want to get to? And then how do we then ultimately progress beyond that to get to a high level performance than where we started? And I think that in design, like I've come to this understanding that I know what I know, I know what I don't know. And right now I'm trying to see like that Nike take the swoosh. I'm trying to shallow out the bottom part as much as I can. So how much can I learn? How much can I be a sponge? How much can I have good conversations with people around me and be, again, just listening more
without dipping too low?
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's another good one, mate. You're flying here. What advice do you give to someone who feels too far in to consider a career change? Because I feel like there's a lot of people like me or like you that have been going for it for so long, trying to hit this height, trying to hit these, put yourself on the pedestal or put yourself up there where you wanted to be, and then eventually you get to the point where like, you know what, I quite fancy doing this, but I'm embedded in this identity or I'm embedded in this role, but I really want to make a change. Like, but I'm too far in, I can't do it. The amount of conversations I have with people, oh yeah, but I've been doing this for ages, so what's the point in changing?
I started off with having conversations with other people that has made a move and that stepped away from the game. Asked them why, like what things are they doing now? Does it interest them? Do they enjoy it? What things have they felt that they've gained in their life that they didn't have before? And I had some conversations that really helped me to understand what I didn't want. And they were just as important as the clarification of what I did want. I think that, something that's been helpful for me is like that I said before, you can love multiple things in your life, and they can actually be some things that you get passionate about that you just don't even know about yet. And so if your whole life is centered around football, we'll say, you have a love and a passion for it, and you spend a lot of time in your life like really immersed in it, there's a point in time where, you can think that that's just your whole life and there's nothing else. Like there's no world outside of football. But when you actually do step away from it and you start to put your energy into something else, you can realize that you can start to get passionate about something completely different. I would just say that anyone that's thinking about making a move like that you just take some time. Like when you're in a job, that's the perfect time because you can take some time to like think really carefully, really reflectively on like, where is your life now? What are the pieces that you like? What do you dislike? Like for me, I disliked coming home late and not being able to see the kids, not being at the dinner table for them, spending 10 minutes with them in a day, like missing out on weekends, birthday parties, blah, blah, blah. Like there was a list as long as my arm. And stepping away from that and like actually experiencing the new, for me, it's been like, oh wow, like I could have made this move 10 years ago. But at the same time, when you're kind of trudging down that pathway of like, I want to try to see if I could get there, I get that too. I went down that path really aggressively for many, many, many years. But yeah, like you say, I think in short, have conversations with people, think very carefully about what you might want to do, and then just be patient with the process as well, because stepping out of something into something new, there's a learning curve that comes with that. You have to be patient, maybe on the job front. You have to be patient in the learning and that pathway.
How'd you stay connected to footy now then, aside from watching Newcastle?
Well, I keep threatening to bring a PlayStation downstairs from the attic so I can play some FIFA. I've been talking about it for months, and
that's a slippery slope, Rich. That's a slippery slope.
I still haven't done it, but anyway, I still watch all the matches, and it's actually nice because I can actually watch matches. Like when I was in football, like I could barely ever watch a full match. So yeah, now I'm like, I can watch them on a Wednesday or a Tuesday, Champions League. I can go watch the matches on a weekend. Now I'm having to actually remind myself that I can't let it consume my life, where if we lose a match, it impacts the rest of my day. Trying to stay away from that. But yeah, other than that, look, I think I still have conversations like this with people. I still have some friends in the game that are like still seeking advice, and I still enjoy talking about it with them. And then, like I said, the design stuff, like I still have these like ideas, and like one of the platforms I'm kind of iterating on at the minute is, okay, as a coach, you have all of these challenges and issues that come up every week. So let's just say, for example, you get to training, you've got your plan, it's all detailed, you've got your teams laid out, you've got periodization for each period, like 3 times 3 minutes, blah, blah, blah. Like the whole thing is mapped out to like real extreme level of detail. And then somebody gets injured in the warm up or they can't make it or whatever. So like these things throw you for a curveball. And so like now I'm trying to like create these ideas of like a platform where it's like, okay, like could I speak to an AI tool and have it spit out some like alternatives for me? Like, okay, this group of 8 can play 3v3+2 as planned, but this group here now only has 7, so they can't play 3+1. Like, well, how could we adapt it? So like maybe there's some tools that, you know, coach could say, I'm missing one player, and then now bang, it quickly adapts to your training session for you. And I've got 2 strains of thought with that, which is one is like, is it taken away from the coach's ability to like make critical decisions in a key moment? And then the other part is, well, what's it really about? The experience should be about the players. So if you can get beyond that, like adaptation of like, what do I need to change? And you can just get to a decision quickly, then you can focus more of your energy back into the training and the players. How do we think about some of the pain points that coaches have every day? And how do you design a platform that would help them to ease some of those issues? You know, it's not to say that they have to use it all the time, but if it's there at their disposal, yeah, anyway, these are the ways I'm still trying to stay in it.
The answer is you're never getting away from football, are you? No matter what you do, you're never getting away from it.
It's in my bones.
No, it's in it. I think sadly it's in all of us. It's our own worst enemy. Last one. What does the future hold for you? What do you think? Job, kids, family? Have you still got that piece of paper with all the countries on it?
I don't. I don't have that now. I think that's in an old wallet that's probably like got 57 cards chunked in it or whatever. I think that what I'd like the future to look like is a lot more traveling with my kids and my family. Now, obviously, we're in the school system now, so we have to kind of like plan that a little bit better. But, you know, I think that the nature of my work now is that it can be done. It is remote work. Like you can work from anywhere. So as long as I have a laptop and I can go bring that with me, I can work from anywhere. So creating better experiences for the kids growing up. Yeah, I think that I'd love to be able to just take them away somewhere. They could go excursions, go to the beach, go do what they want to do. I can take some hours to do my work and then catch up with them later or whatever. But being able to like be more mobile and just bounce around a little bit more, visit more places and give the kids that kind of experience of life. I think that's where I would like to go next.
That's class. That's a good answer, mate. Listen, Rich, thanks very much. That was brilliant. So I really appreciate the time, mate. Thanks. Before you go, I don't do some quick fire questions. Random. Favorite dessert?
Brownie.
It's proper American, that, isn't it? All right. One thing from the US that should definitely be a thing in England?
Buffalo chicken. I mean, it's kind of making its way over there now, but buffalo chicken was a big
but when you go into a place, are you that, like, when you go into a place and you get a buffalo chicken, you're like, that's not the same. It's not the same. And you go in England.
Oh, yeah, no, not in the UK.
No, definitely not. All right. One thing you miss from home?
Sausage rolls. No, actually, Greg. I'll take that back. Yeah, Greg's in general, but chicken bakes from.
Yeah, not your family, no. Just sausage rolls.
Yeah, them
as well, yeah. All right, what song are you singing on a karaoke?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably sing something country now.
Country, seriously? You can't tell me. Every time I go to Spain, there's not one Geordie alive that does not sing karaoke. Trust me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm miserable. I'm absolutely miserable at it. But I do like country music, so I'd probably go that route.
All right, and then one of the countries that's on that list, or that was on that list, which one would you like to visit the most?
I've been a few times before, but Italy was one of them. And man, like I'm really hard pressed when we like pick a new destination for a vacation that to like not just say Italy again, because it's so good.
I've never been, I've never been.
Yeah, it's only been the last few years that we've been, but it is absolutely just spectacular. It's brilliant.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get it on the list. All right, last question. This might get you in trouble. Are you Red Bull or New York City?
Man, that will get me in trouble. Can I skip it?
No.
Right, I think I'll say it like this then, so they can't lip read. I'll say,
Richie, thanks very much, mate. That was class. I really appreciate the time in the middle of the day, and I wish you the best of luck with everything as well. If you ever need any help with anything or want to come back on down the line and see how you got on, it'd be brilliant.
I appreciate your time, Gary, and honestly, thanks very much for thinking of me for this. Hopefully, people get something halfway decent out of it.
I'm sure they'll learn something, mate. Everybody always does. You're more interested than me as well, so people will tune in for you. Nice one, Rich. Cheers.
Thanks, mate.
Bye. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you or someone you know has a story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us via our socials or visit www.crossingthepondpodcast.com to get in touch. Please be sure to subscribe, like, or leave a comment if you can. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Across Pond Podcasting.